I've walked through every season a market can throw at a man. I've watched the tape sing like a choir when everything aligned, and I've watched it grind like a millstone when pride stood in the way. I've felt the rush that tricks you into thinking the tide will always carry you, and the sting that teaches you the tide belongs to no one. Fortune and ruin were both my teachers, and if you listen to me tonight, you'll hear the part the books never tell you. Ruin, not fortune, is the master instructor. People imagine a crash as thunder and glass and shouting. That isn't how it feels from the inside. It feels like a room where the sound has been pulled out of the air. The ticker still prints, the crowd still moves, but you can't hear it. You're underwater. You tell yourself the next uptick will set you free. You tell yourself the next bounce will make you whole. You tell yourself the market is mistaken, that it will apologize any minute now. It never does. The market does not apologize. The market does not remember your name. When I lost everything the first time, I learned how loud silence can be. Friends get quiet. Editors stop calling. Clerks who used to hurry now look busy with anything but you. None of that is cruel. They're simply following the same law the market follows. Attention goes where strength goes. What matters is not their silence, but yours. Can you be still long enough to hear the truth underneath the noise you used to make for yourself? I began again with paper and pencil, not because paper is magical, but because the hand that writes is the hand that acts. I wrote down every rule I had violated and every superstition I had mistaken for skill. I wrote what I should have done and what I actually did, and I didn't let myself explain the difference away with clever words. Explanation is the favorite refuge of the undisciplined. Execution is the only refuge of the professional. The mind after a loss tries to bargain. It looks for a shortcut, a secret pool of warm water where you can wash shame away without paying for it in discipline. There is no such pool. There is only the long, straight road of small, correct actions. You win a new future there, one measured step at a time. You do not buy it in a single leap. Here is how I actually started over. I cut my position size to the smallest I could take seriously. I refused to pyramid unless the market paid me first. I didn't scout for action. I waited for price to speak in a clear voice. When it did, I acted once, then shut my mouth and let the position answer. If it proved me right, I added on strength. I didn't argue with a tape I claimed to respect. In the years people like to call my greatest, they see the totals and forget the apprenticeship. I made and lost fortunes 3 times. I did not enjoy the losing, but I would not trade the lessons for an easier path. The first comeback was fueled by anger and pride. It didn't last. The second was built on routines. It lasted longer but cracked when I confused rigor with rigidity. The third was built on humility and observation. That one endured because humility and observation leave room for the market to be the market. A comeback isn't a banner you wave. It's a quiet set of mornings where you behave. I rose before the noise, read without chasing, and asked a single question. What is price telling me that I don't want to hear? When you ask that question daily and answer it honestly, clarity grows like muscle. You don't notice it in the mirror each day, but you feel it the next time you have to carry something heavy. Loss psychology is the forge. Inside it, impulse masquerades as urgency, and pride dresses itself as conviction. The tape is indifferent to costumes. It cares only for weight and direction. A trader who cannot sit still when there is nothing to do will pay tuition forever. A trader who cannot exit when the premise is broken will donate principal until the account is nothing but memory. I have been both men. I have paid that tuition. I do not recommend the course. The love of being right is the most expensive romance in speculation. I've seen men average down with the tenderness of a poet writing a letter. They weren't adding to a position. They were writing themselves a myth about being correct in the end. The end does not care. The end only balances. If you want a blueprint for recovery, take this down carefully. First, protect resources as if they belong to someone you respect, because they do, your future self. Second, define the exact conditions under which you will act. Entry criteria that are visible on the chart. Stop location that pre-exists the entry, and a scale plan that only rewards price for proving you right. Third, restrict decision windows. If the signal does not fire in the time and structure you expect, it is not your trade. Fourth, track behavior. Journal not only prices and levels, but mood, fatigue, and temptation. You are trading your own biology whether you admit it or not. Fifth, practice subtractive mastery. Remove one impulsive behavior at a time until your day is mostly composed of high-quality boredom, punctuated by decisive action. Encouraging each tiny obedience repairs the bridge between your intention and your action. That bridge is confidence. People think confidence is a feeling. It isn't. Confidence is the memory of promises you kept to yourself under pressure. Keep enough of those promises and your hands stop shaking when the number moves against you, because you already know what you will do. That calm is an edge, because most participants do not possess it and will sell it to you cheap in a panic. Responsibility sounds like punishment when you're new to it. It becomes a lever when you practice it. The single sentence that changed my career was this: I am responsible for every fill in my book, not the news, not a syndicate, not the clerk who misheard, me. Once I said that sentence out loud, the world simplified. If I am responsible, then I am also able to respond. If I am able to respond, I can design responses in advance. Design beats improvisation when money is at stake. I have no patience for the man who loses and then slanders the market to soothe himself. The tape is cruel only to the undisciplined. It is generous to the prepared. It does not change its rules to spare your feelings. And that is precisely why it can be trusted more than any friend who flatters you. Let me tell you what a real plan feels like from the inside. It feels almost dull on ordinary days. It does not itch for action. It does not admire cleverness. It measures, waits, confirms, and then moves with the calm of a craftsman lifting a familiar tool. When you are tempted to act outside the plan answers with a question: would you gladly repeat this behavior 1,000 times? If the answer is no, you already know it is not policy. It is impulse. Policy scales. Impulse breaks. My rules were not slogans. They were scars arranged into sentences. Never add to a losing line. Never risk ruin for pride. Let a winning position prove it can carry weight before you ask it to carry more. Sit out when the picture is muddy. There is no tax on patience. Respect the stop like you respect a good friend who tells you the truth you don't want to hear. If you cannot obey in small matters, the market will never trust you with large matters. If you are listening with a bruised account and a bruised heart, hear this clearly. You are not finished. The distance between failure and competence is not crossed in a sprint. It is crossed in repetitions. Exit a loser promptly today. Wait for confirmation tomorrow. Size correctly the day after. You will think these steps are too small to matter. They are not small, they are atomic. Stack enough of them and you will have a new self, and that self will have a new equity curve. Never whisper the oath of the desperate, "I'll win it back." That sentence has buried more traders than any panic ever printed. The market doesn't know what you lost, doesn't care what you need, and won't bend to help you feel whole. Promise yourself something better. I will behave correctly. The account will follow the behavior the way a shadow follows a body. After each collapse, I conducted an autopsy without anesthesia. I laid the trades out on the table and asked not only what failed, but why my mind didn't see the failure when it was still small enough to fix. The answer, almost every time, was ego disguised as loyalty to an idea. Ego is expensive inventory. It takes space. It rots. It crowds your shelves so there's no room for fresh stock when the right shipment arrives. The successful operator turns inventory quickly and keeps ego on a very short leash. People like to ask me about 1908 and 1929, as if they were fairy tales with simple morals. They weren't. They were storms. In 1908, I stood on the pier with my chest out, and the wind took me into the sea. In 1929, I built a shelter and let the wind work for me. The facts are public, but the interior difference is the point. In the first, I believed being clever exempted me from the rules. In the second, I believed the rules were the only cleverness worth trusting. The same mind, the same hands, two very different results. Understand something most men never learn. The professional's day is mostly waiting. A marathoner spends far more minutes at a controlled cadence than at a sprint. A farmer spends months tending before a single day of harvest. A trader who expects constant drama is asking for expensive lessons. Patience is not passive. Patience is pressure held in reserve until the hinge of the market loosens. Then all the quiet pays you at once. I trained myself to love quiet. I made a ritual of reviewing the tape without touching it. I would mark levels, write conditions, and then push the chair back and ask whether I could swear to live with the outcome if I acted right now. If I could not swear it, I closed the book. I did not let boredom dress up as conviction. There is no honor in motion without mandate. There is a kind of fatigue that does not announce itself with yawns. It hides in small compromises. Moving a stop one tick, justifying a late entry because the idea is good, telling yourself you'll tighten the rules tomorrow. That fatigue is the enemy of the operator. I countered it with fixed rituals, fixed sleep, fixed review windows, fixed maximum decisions per session. People think flexibility is freedom. In markets, the right constraints are freedom because they keep you from becoming your own opponent. I also learned to forgive myself quickly and completely after I obeyed a rule that cost me money. A stop that triggers and saves you from deeper harm is a friend you must thank, not a villain you must chase. If the next bar reverses and would have paid you, bless it and walk on. You did your job. The market will still be open tomorrow. The goal is not to win every skirmish. The goal is to remain a soldier with ammunition when the decisive battle appears. Recovery is not dramatic from the inside. It feels like stacking bricks. You rise without ceremony. The statements improve quietly. Your heart rate no longer spikes when a position moves because you are never in a place where panic is required. You notice that you are making fewer decisions and better ones because good process compresses noise. That is success. Not glamour, not headlines, competence that does not need applause. I remind new traders of a hard truth. You are not paid for prediction. You are paid for participation in aligned movement. The market does not pay profits. It pays disciplined partners. If you need to be right about the future to feel worthy, you will donate to those who only need to be respectful of the present. There is also the matter of environment. A man who keeps company with frantic minds begins to twitch even when he swears he won't. I curated my inputs like positions. Size them, limit them, exit the noisy ones. I read less gossip, more ledgers. I listened less to men who explained everything and more to price, which explains nothing and therefore lies less. When fear arrived, and fear always arrives, I made it pay rent. I wrote exactly what I feared would happen, then wrote the behaviors that would protect me if it did. Fear that is written becomes a checklist. Fear that is ignored becomes a puppeteer. I prefer paper to strings. If you have been average down loyal to a bad idea, stop baptizing stubbornness as conviction. Conviction is earned by price confirmation, not by suffering. The market is not a god who rewards martyrs. It is a machine that rewards alignment and punishes attachment. Now listen closely, because this is the spine of everything I learned about starting over. Capital is oxygen. Process is lungs. Psychology is breath. You need all three. Guard capital with policy. Build process with repetition. Protect psychology with rest and with truth. Remove any one and the other two suffocate. Do one right thing in the next session, then a second, then a third. String them like beads. When you have a chain long enough to circle a month, you will not recognize yourself. People will tell you they see new confidence. It won't be new. It will be the old you minus the noise. If you slip, and you will, slip small. A single broken rule stopped quickly is a lesson. A day of broken rules becomes a story your account will have to carry for months. Professionals can find damage in time and size. Amateurs invite it to stay for the weekend and then wonder why it moved in. And never insult your future by chasing today's loss with tomorrow's recklessness. Win it back is not a plan. It is vandalism against your own potential. The market is not the thief in that scene. You are. Keep your tools sharp. A watch list that is yours, not borrowed. Levels you drew yourself, not copied. Rules you understand well enough to explain to a child. If you can't explain it simply, you won't obey it under stress. Complexity is a popular hiding place for fear. Simplicity is exposure therapy. It forces you to admit what you're really doing. I am not promising immunity from loss. Loss is part of the contract. I am promising competence. Competence turns loss into tuition instead of tragedy. Competence keeps you solvent long enough for the edge to express itself across time. Maybe you're listening with a ledger that hurts to open. Good pain is attention. Use it while it's fresh. In a year you will forget how this moment felt. And forgetting is dangerous. Write the truths now while they are hot enough to bend steel. Next year you will read them and recognize the man who refused to quit. Steady, subscribe to Success Archives if you want to keep this conversation alive. We won't sell you fantasies. We'll hand you habits. We won't flatter your impulses. We'll train them. We'll study men who survived the same storms you are standing in now, and we will take their methods apart until they fit in your hands. The market will put you on trial daily. It will examine your patience, your humility, and your ability to act without drama. Pass the test by thinking clearly when others perform, by obeying rules when others improvise, by remaining solvent when others seek excitement. Master your behavior and the balance will take care of itself. In the end, the victory that matters is not a number on a single statement. It is the quiet certainty that you can lose and begin again without losing yourself. That certainty is freedom. That freedom is edge. And the man who owns it can walk back onto the floor after ruin and build a future with steady hands.